It's Tuesday night, and in thousands of storefronts and gyms across America, people are working up and down the floors of their training gyms. Barefoot, wearing uniforms and sparring gear, these groups of men, women, teens, and school kids sweat and move as instructors and coaches bark commands in a foreign language. The gyms are packed. Some have 3 or 4 classes a night. It's the 1980s, and martial arts, most importantly Korean martial arts called Tae Kwon Do. Korean karate, is the dominant amateur form of martial arts across America from the East Coast to the West. Times were good. Large, multi-state organizations and competition tournaments were held literally every week somewhere across the country. A lot of money was being made, and corporate America responded by creating subsidized and even professional teams to compete on the emerging national circuits. Media outlets and magazines feature athletes and master instructors. High times for Korean karate, with 1986 marking the year Tae Kwon Do and its relatives being named the most practiced martial arts across America. Young people donned their uniforms and tied up their belts, dreaming of professional careers in the Korean martial arts. 2006. Anywhere USA Tae Kwon Do has been taken over by the World Tae Kwon Do Federation, backed by the government of South Korea. The organization has pushed for unification of the Korean karate movement. Instructors have been expelled or forced to toe the line. In 1986, while Tae Kwon Do was being crowned the most successful martial arts movement in America, a new physical culture was setting foot in the USA that would radically shape martial arts in ways no one would expect. In 1986, the Gracie family of Brazil would bring Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and its full-contact fighting called Vale Tudo, or No Holds Barred, to America. At first, no one seemed to believe that a brutal, full-contact art for adult fighters posed much of a challenge to the massively successful conventional Korean karate schools. But that would change. In 1996, the largest American Tae Kwon Do association, the AMA, collapsed. Why would the largest multi-state Tae Kwon Do association with a track record of almost 3 decades of success and growth fail overnight? The same issues that brought about their failure would soon run amok through the Korean Tae Kwon Do and Korean karate edifice, and the results would be devastating. So what killed Tae Kwon Do and Korean karate? Commercialization, misrepresentation, and nationalization. The root of all these problems was the same: lying. 1. Commercialization. Success bred a slew of fakes, imitators, and instructors who quickly figured out the fastest way to make a buck was to sell the product as expensively as possible with as little effort by the student to earn the desired outcome as possible. In other words, standards dropped and quality hit the skids. Schools realized people wanted the status of being a black belt, but the average hobbyist wasn't going to dedicate long years and physical suffering to earn that belt. So the unscrupulous or uncaring simply began selling black belts to the highest bidders. This led to entire cohorts of black belts that couldn't pass the requirements for an amateur karate student. Time required to earn a black belt was cut from 3 to 5 years to 2 to 3 years to as little as 1. All with plenty of cash fees, a long way to keep the doors open and the lights on. 2. Nationalization. The Korean government had heavily promoted and financially and physically subsidized the expansion of Tae Kwon Do and Korean karate in America, all while competing factions within the martial arts movements in Korea fought bitterly for supremacy within the governing bodies. Eventually, the World Tae Kwon Do Federation, now World Tae Kwon Do, won favor with the sitting Korean government and was declared the final authority. This led to World Tae Kwon Do's Olympic sport version of Tae Kwon Do to be featured in Olympic competition from 1988 onwards. This nationalist push to unify Korean martial arts would continue until the original Korean karate and Korean jiu-jitsu traditions had been officially removed from Korean national recognition. Homogenization would continue until what is called Tae Kwon Do today has no resemblance to the martial arts of a generation ago at all. But we will discuss this further later. Finally, and tied directly to Korean nationalist desires, was the massive misrepresentations that were sold to the American audience and consumers of Tae Kwon Do and Korean karate to give Korean martial arts a greatly aggrandized, had completely false history, and to mislead supporters. Tae Kwon Do and Korean karate were sold as indigenous Korean arts that had roots in ancient Korean culture going back thousands of years. Tae Kwon Do was a direct descendant of an ancient Korean martial art called Tae Kwon, which had been passed down in secret for several generations from ancient warriors named the Warong, Knights of Ancient Korea. People were told how effective and deadly these ancient martial arts were. and various personalities were given cult-like status as founders and masters of these arts. In fact, nothing like that was even close to the truth. Tae Kwon was a Korean folk competition, not a martial art. When the practice was revived in the 1990s, only 2 Tae Kwon competitors were found in the entire nation of Korea, and both were elderly men, and only one of these men had full training in the ancient folk art at all. The Tae Kwon that exists today is a recreation, not an ancient practice, reorganized as a martial art and not a folk competition. The name Tae Kwon Do was created by Choi Hong-hai, who claims the title of founder of Tae Kwon Do and approved by a committee of marital arts leaders in 1955. Choi himself never earned a high rank in the martial arts. His was given an honorary rank of 4th Dan by Master Won Kook Lee of the Chung Do Kwon, the largest and most successful post-war Korean Tae Kwon Do, or Korean karate group in the country. Lee later revoked Choi's rank for misconduct. Lee's own rank, in the martial arts, is often claimed to be 4th Dan in Shotokan karate from Japan. But the Japanese organization refutes this. There is no actual record of Gichin Funakoshi teaching any non-Japanese students before or during the war, and the stories of how these Korean students somehow all managed to study under Funakoshi, who taught only one small group of students in Japan during the war, and whose dojo was closed and later destroyed by Allied bombing, are have elements that would beg belief. No non-Japanese would earn a high ranking in Funakoshi Sensei's system pre-war, not to mention the unlikelihood of Funakoshi accepting some of these men, who were, according to their own accounts, felons and wanted criminals at the time. So, these 10th Dan masters, some of whom were first of 2nd degree black belts, and some of which were supposedly self-taught. Why make these claims? Because the men who were taught judo, jiu-jitsu, and karate in pre-war Korea learned Japanese martial arts at Japanese government-sanctioned karate and judo training halls that operated in Korea throughout the occupation period. This is why a Korean master and founder of Mu-duk Kwan Hwang Ki, a major Tae Kwon Do or traditional Korean karate organization to this day, would claim to be self-taught, so he wouldn't have to link his karate training to Japanese dojos operating in occupied Korea and Manchuria. But in fact, Won Kook Lee was prosecuted for cooperating with the Japanese after the war, and having a Japanese history led to many of these heads of Korean Tae Kwon Do/Tae Kwon Do schools to be forced out of Korea. This is why many of these schools and styles only exist in nations outside Korea like America and Canada today. All these forces collectively began to destroy the presence of Korean karate in America. From the year 2000 or so on, month after month, Korean Tae Kwon Do, Korean karate schools would close their doors one after another. Dojos would be replaced with Brazilian jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts gyms. While some groups remained, most shrank dramatically, and many remaining Tae Kwon Do schools were either Korean government subsidized for Olympic-style training or became after-school kids' classes full of primary school kids. Can Korean martial arts recover? Even if they can manage to return to solid karate practices, they will find it a difficult job to attract adults and families the way Tae Kwon Do and traditional Tae Kwon Do schools did in their heydays of the 80s. Perhaps if Tae Kwon Do and Tae Kwon Do organizations embrace their actual lineage as unique forms of traditional karate, they would find themselves once again as successful as they were in the past. One of the first tenets of Korean karate training is integrity. A factual accounting of history and admission of truths will be essential for the rebirth of Korean karate after the malpractices of the past decades.